Wait, me
Jai Shrimanara. Jai Shrimanara. Jai Shrimanara. I pay my obeisances to my spiritual master, Srimad Jagadguru Sudarshan Acharya Ji Maharaj. I pay my obeisances to Lord Sri Ramanuj. I pay my obeisances to our Purva Acharyas. I pay my obeisances to our 12 Alvars. I pay my obeisances to Mother Lakshmi, and I pay my obeisances to Lord Sriman Narayan. I welcome all of you here physically at the Sri Narayan Dham in Durban, South Africa. I welcome those that's watching this discourse locally, nationally, and internationally. And I welcome in advance those that's going to be watching this discourse when it is posted on YouTube and the various groups from around the world subsequently. Today we embark on the discourse, The Soul, Part 4. And as I've stated earlier in the series, this human body is awarded to the soul only for this realization. There are 8.4 million species of life form, and in none of those life forms can you realize your true self. So the God, the Supreme Lord, created this vehicle called the human body to simply realize you are the soul. That is all. But very few humans at this season of Kali Yuga are interested in knowing its true identity. We are busy in this world trying to survive a vehicle that will perish no matter how hard and how much effort you put into this vehicle called the body. It only comes with one guarantee, that it will perish. That is the guarantee of the human body. One unwritten guarantee that it will perish. Whilst knowing this, we still continue to preserve this body which we know innately will perish. We witness death every day, but we still deceive ourselves that it would not be me. And whilst deceiving ourselves it would not be me, we continue to structure ourselves, we continue to structure our lives in such a way that it is for self-preservation and preservation for our family. We do not allow ourselves to go beyond our own body and the bodies of our family. Very few of us break that barrier and go into the world of bodies. Our inherent nature is selfishness. Our inherent nature is selfishness. You will condemn the same behavior of a person outside your circle, but when it comes to your circle, then you condone that behavior. Is it not normal? Aren't we all guilty of this? If you see a poor man drunk, how would you react to a poor man drunk? As opposed to a very rich man drunk. You see a rich very rich man wobbling into his Lamborghini. What is your reaction to that very rich man? And what is your reaction to a beggar that's lying on the floor drunk? Sit up.
I feel sorry for both.
No, you say the man in the Lamborghini, oh, poor man, he's so drunk today. And you spit at the man on the street. Both had the same amount of alcohol and both experienced the same drunkenness. Yes or no? So this is the human mind. This is how we are. This is how we are computed. This is who we have become. We can have varying emotions to one scenario, depending from which view we are projecting our mind. Yes or no? So it is important that we know who we are. It is important that we know who we are. And the first thing at this level we need to discard, and I stated this in the series, is that I have a soul. I have a soul. We need to discard that. That is bull. We don't have a soul. We have a body. We are the soul. We are the soul. We have a body. That is how you make an affirmation in recognition of your true identity. I am the soul. I have a body. You don't say, I have a soul. And you notice that 90% of the people around the world will still be saying, I have a... No, you don't have a soul. Then you and the soul are different. I am the soul. I am the soul. I have a body. So these are the ABCs to spirituality. This is understanding your spiritual nature. This is understanding your true nature. This is who you are. You are infinite, indestructible, ever blissful, ever knowledgeable. This is who you are. You are trapped in a prison. Two prisons. Which are the two prisons? Jessica? No, your body and the universe. So the soul is trapped in a miniature prison called the body, and in a maximum prison called the universe. There is a word called Durga, D-U-R-G-A, in Sanskrit. And some of you get the Durga trance, which is bull. Which is bull. Durga means prison. From Sanskrit to English, Durga means prison, and the material universe is a prison, and the superintendent of the material universe is referred to as Mother Durga, and her husband is Lord Shiva. That is all. That is all. Okay? You don't see this universe go into a trance state. Then how can you go into the trance state? How can you say I have Durga trance when Durga herself don't go into trance? You understand in basics. Sita? Sita was absent for a long while. She thought she could work from home spiritually. Online. Then she went offline. And then she realized physical attendance to satsang can only keep you on par. So Sita, one day you can stand here and tell them how terrible and dark your life was out of satsang. Sita? Yeah. It's all about experience. We have these live discourses. I'm spreading information in social media for people that's outside, and people that's inside. It's a scientific lab. It's a laboratory. Here you experience spirituality, and on social media you gain knowledge on spirituality. So you can imagine Sita as a rat, lab rat, and we worked on her, and we sent her out, and she came back, and now we have some information that when you go online, you go offline spiritually. You have to have a direct connection to remain happy, to remain blissful, and to sustain your soul. You can sustain your body outside. The sustenance of your soul, you have to come to ashram for a fill up. Your tank needs to be refueled every now and again. So you need to understand how Guru and the soul works. How Guru and the soul works. Guru is the technician who has a certificate to work with the soul. Guru is a technician who has a certificate to work with the soul. A bona fide Guru only works with the soul. All these yoga gurus and all these other gurus are not the gurus that the Bhagavad Gita speak about. Because yoga works with the body. Mantras work with the mind, which is part of the body. Guru, a bona fide spiritual master, must work with the soul. Because a bona fide master can work with the body, a bona fide spiritual master must work with spirit. And spirit is the soul. You understand it? Bona fide spiritual master must deal with the soul. So in dealing with the soul, like when you build a house, does a house have a subtle form? Or is it only a gross form? No, it has a subtle form. The subtle form is drawn up by the architect and the engineers. Isn't it there that the house gets its formation, architect and engineers, in a subtle form? Then that subtle form, through the builders, is manifested into a gross form. But without the subtle form, there can be no gross form of a house. Otherwise, that house is deemed illegal and it must be broken down. Do you understand? So when you have these yoga gurus and mantra gurus and all these other funny types of gurus, if they don't have a subtle plan for you, your gross plan will always perish. Yes? Because it is illegal. So similarly, when you come to this type of satsang, the Guru starts engineering and starts to architecture your life in a subtle form. In a subtle form, and most of the people are too impatient for the subtle form to be completed. And many people leave. Thousands have left here because the plans were not completed. You cannot build without a plan. And all the houses are not the same. All the foundations are not the same. In some buildings you need piling, and you need different types of foundation in different areas. Similarly, each one of you is different. And the plans take a long time to manifest. And then what is required for you physically in this material world starts to manifest. So if you're in a hurry, then nothing, that what you want to manifest cannot manifest, because this Guru will go by the book. This Guru will go by the book. So the plan for you have to be anchored very, very deeply in a subtle form first, and when you can handle it, then the Guru will build your desire on it. Because if you do not have strength to sustain that desire, it will be more damaging for you than not attaining it. Do you understand? More damaging to you than not attaining it. And that is why most of the time the Guru do not give you, because you do not have the capacity to maintain and sustain. It could be more damaging to you. All of you understand? So everyone can be made a multi-billionaire right now in this room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of you can be made a multi-billionaire right now. If God can create these infinite amount of universes and galaxies and constellations, what is making 15 people a multi-billionaire? I'm asking. Next week this time, I'll be giving service to an empty ashram. If on Monday each one of you got 100 billion in your account, the first person's face to vanish from your memory will be the Guru. First face to vanish will be the Guru. First address to vanish will be 28 Dunstable Crescent. Yes? Next week Guru will be talking to the 330 million cosmic administrators only, no humans. Because I can bet you each one of you will have an excuse next week Sunday why you couldn't be here. Every one of you. Jessica and Satish will say, I'm missing my granddaughter. They'll be there. They would have bought a private jet to fly up and down to see their granddaughter. And then all of a sudden will have so many things to do in his last stage of his life. Everyone, nobody will be here next Sunday, guaranteed. Guaranteed. So for you to find your true self, which is the reason this vehicle called a human body was awarded to you, Guru not going to make your life very, very prosperous. Because if prosperity can take you from yourself, then my contract with the Supreme Lord I am contradicting my contract to the Supreme Lord, because my job is simply to tell you, Havir, you are the soul. That is all. But it's a long journey, and along the journey, I give you a few grains of sugar. Few grains of, not sugars of it. Sugar. Alright? 1 grain here, 1 grain there, 1 grain there, so that I don't take you out of the parameters of my mission. Are you understanding? So, all those gurus that gives you material happiness, they are not the gurus from the Bhagavad Gita. They are not Lord Sri Krishna ordained gurus. They are not Lord Ram ordained gurus. They are not Lord Shiva's gurus from the Guru Gita. Alright? They are part of Kali Yuga. They are part of Kali Yuga to brainwash you that there is happiness somewhere. To brainwash you that there is happiness in a haven. How fast people run through havens. They are taking you away from yourself. That is their job. This is Kali Yuga. Their job is to take you away from yourself, and my job is to bring you to yourself. So I will always be in conflict with all of these gurus who are not teaching you that you are the soul, who are not leading you to spiritual liberation. They are leading you to financial and material liberation. Yes? Do you understand? So my job is to take you to spiritual liberation, and for spiritual liberation you need to detach from material liberation. You can't get that too. You can't get that too. But I'm not saying that you cannot sustain yourself with prosperity in this material universe. We know Lord Krishna was his incarnation as Lord Krishna, he was a material king. Was he not a king? Did he not live opulently? Did he not make use of all the material things that are present in this universe? Did he not dress like a king? And who is he? God. As Lord Ram, was he not a king? Was he a king? Did he not live the opulent life of a king when he was reigned in as a king? You understand? So I'm not saying you can't live a life of prosperity, but I am not connecting your mind to prosperity. It's by the way. It is by the way, like the oxygen you breathe in. It's by the way. Every day you breathe in the oxygen in and out without ever giving gratitude to that element which is called oxygen. Which morning you got up and said, "Thank you, oxygen. You are my sustenance. For the minute I stop receiving you in and out of my lungs, it's the end of me." You ever say that? You take it for granted. Similarly, you must take material life for granted. You must take your richness for granted without connecting your mind to it. You must also take your poverty to granted without attaching your mind to it. It must be like oxygen. Breathe in your oxygen, breathe out your oxygen. Breathe in your prosperity, breathe out your prosperity. Breathe in your poverty, breathe out your poverty without attaching your mind and say, I am poor, I am miserable, I am rich, I am wealthy. Take this as you take your breath. Concentrate your mind on your liberation. Concentrate your mind on your liberation. And as I said, my mission is to explain God as the supreme scientist. My mission is to reinforce in your mind that the Supreme Lord is the supreme scientist, and we have to find a scientific way. We have to find a scientific way in which to connect to the Supreme Lord. So if I am saying that the soul is scientific and the Supreme Lord is scientific, where must that information come from? From the Lord himself. And we know that the Lord has spoken. He has spoken in the Bhagavad Gita. And whatever he has stated here, material science is slowly coming to understand. At this point in time, as I'm speaking today, scientists have discovered, material scientists have discovered that the universe has attributes of a prison. What has material scientists discovered? The universe has attributes of a prison. This information has been in the Vedas since creation, because the Vedas is the constitution of this universe. You cannot, it is the subtle plan I'm discussing of the universe. First the Vedas, then the universe. When the Vedas get removed, the universe collapses. Do you understand? This is the relationship between the Vedas and the universe. What does Vedas mean? Simply knowledge. Simply knowledge. Vedas mean, in English, knowledge. This universe is created on knowledge. Yes or no?
Yes.
Knowledge is the substratum of this universe. Vedas is not a Hindi or Hindu scripture. Vedas is not a Hindu scripture. Knowledge is knowledge. Knowledge of an apple. Knowledge of an apple. Is it in the Vedas? Knowledge of a snake. Is it in the Vedas? Knowledge of a tree. Is it in the Vedas? Is a tree a Hindu entity? Is an apple a Hindu entity? Is a snake a Hindu entity? But we think mostly snakes are Hindu, alright? I'm sure you all experienced the person. Alright? But are you understanding? Language does not change an entity. Apple is apple in English, is apple in Hindi. Apple, and in Zulu, apple too. Dana in Tamil. Say, you understand? Language does not change the substance. Gold is gold in English. Gold is sona in Hindi. Dana gold is in Tamil. Dana was a very stupid Tamil. illiterate Madraji ke bacha. And I don't want to say the rest of the sentence. You know, the rest of the sentence ends with sacha. Alright? I don't want to say that, Anna. You understand? So don't mistake when we say Vedas, then your mind must click to Hinduism and India. When I say Vedas, your mind must click to Hinduism and India. That is a misconception. Throw it away. There is no such thing called Hinduism, and Indian people from India don't own the Vedas. The Vedas do not belong to Indian people from India. And I want to clarify this a little bit further. We have North India and we have South India. Yes?
Yes.
I saw in North India Indians whiter than Europeans. Is it true? And I saw in South India Indians darker than blacks. Is it true?
Yes.
True. I saw eyes of Indians. Aishwarya Rai, not this Aishwarya Sita. Aishwarya Rai, you saw color of eyes, and you saw some of these actresses, because if you didn't go to India, then your only knowledge will be through these actresses. But all the color eyes that is found in Europeans, I saw it in Indians. I want you to understand scientifically. Understand scientifically. So, race by color. Asmita is looking at me like this, shaking her face. Okay, Asmita, you're also white. She's trying to attract my attention. Let me see your eyes. Okay, she also has light green eyes. Alright? So you cannot confine race to color. Can you?
No.
Are you understanding the science behind what I am trying to say? So there was a point in time when the earth had not broken into continents. There was a point in time when the earth was held together. You have knowledge of this?
Yes.
If you look at the world map now, at this point in time, and if you cut up all the pieces and then put them together on a flat surface, you'll see that all the parts of the different continents fit like a jigsaw puzzle. That is why you find that two parts missing, it will be Madagascar and Mauritius. Find it and slip it in between, you'll see Earth was one. Then when the plates shifted, tectonic plates shifted, the earth broke into pieces. Now it is human psychology of all people of one kind to gravitate towards each other. In this room, if I put 25 Khaleds, 25 Africans, 25 Europeans, and 25 Indians, they'll all come in randomly, and as the hour will go, you'll see all the Charos going together, all the Brenos going together, all the blacks going together, and all the whites going together. It is a chemistry within humanity to gravitate towards your own kind. So when God gave birth, Creator God gave birth to all these races, He gave birth to them simultaneously. Otherwise, He cannot be called a Creator God. If He gave birth to Indians first, then He had a preference. And when God got a preference, He cannot be called God. If He got a preference, then He limited Himself to a preference, then He cannot be called God. Because God is limitless. He must have no preference at all. So if these various races were created, they had to be created equally and simultaneously, yes? And they had to be created at one point. They had to be created at one point. And when the continent split, because of our human nature of being together, the blacks drifted into Africa, the Europeans drifted into Europe, the Indian continent drifted into the east, collided, and that's how the Himalayas were formed through collision. It's geographical, you understand? And this is where we separated as races. But the remnants of the initial races are still in India. Yes? Logical? Is there any other explanation for what I am explaining? Can you find an alternate explanation? Because I know earlier on there was a big joke that the whites landed at the coast of Gujarat, and that is why Indians have blue eyes, green eyes. Then who landed at Sri Lanka? I'm just saying. Do you understand? So we have to be scientific. We have to use. You know, if you take all these brain cells and you lay it down side by side, it can cover a football field. You know? So we're not saying use all. A few. Use a few. And come to righteous conclusions. And come to righteous conclusions. Understand that we were all born from the same womb. Understand that we were all born from the same womb. We are different in our ways, but we come from the same Creator. And this is why we need to understand we are the soul. Because the soul has no color. Soul has no color. Soul has no race. Soul has no culture. Soul is simply a living principle inserted in 8.4 million species of life. You become different when you are inserted in that species. When you identify with the species, you are different. So when we say, I am Indian, then you are identifying as the body. You are identifying as the body. And when you say, I am soul, experiencing an Indian body, then you identifying as a soul. And you know God loves variety. Imagine how many people on this earth? 8 point billion. Imagine we all look like either Jessica or Satish. If you were male, you look like Satish. If you were female, you look like Jessica. What would God have done? Especially to Jessica. All You understand? But look, 8.4 billion, no, 8 billion you said, or 8.6 billion I think, not too sure. How small this thumbprint is? And how many zillions humans passed in life? No two ever had the same thumbprint. But look at the area, look at how small this is. How unique is God in His creation that in a 1 centimeter space, no two thumbprint designs are the same. And yet KwaZulu Natal, the Motor Vehicle Registering Authority, they had to change their system because the numbers got finished. They ran out of numbers. But look at the thumb, 1 centimeter and half a centimeter. This is the uniqueness of your Creator. Why He wants to keep you individual? So that He can love you individually. He can love you individually. He made sure He keep you individual. Although as a soul we are 100% identical. As a soul we are 100% identical. But God knows you. Jessica can't say, no God, the other Jessica. God knows this Jessica personally. Jessica Pandey. Yes? Yes. God knows you personally. He gave you a barcode. What code you call this now? I think they got a new name. What is coding? QR code. God's QR code came since creation. Yes? And no two has ever been the same. No two has ever been the same. Okay? And you need to know this. And you can only know this from the perspective of a soul. If you think I am the soul, then you can see God's truth. If you think I am the body, then you are in an illusion. Different races being different is an illusion. Different races being the same is the absolute truth, because the substratum of all the races is the soul. If the soul does not enter a body, there can be no component of a race. If a soul does not enter a body, can you get a race? And that soul, which is the substratum, which is the living principle in all the races, is the same. Is the same. It is identical. Which means all races should be equal. Doesn't it? Because we're using the same battery in every race. So I've been having an uphill battle. As soon as I went universal. As soon as I went universal, my Hindu devotees started running away. And that is the tragedy, because there's no such thing as Hindus, they came here looking for something that they're not going to get. Every week you come here, the only thing you'll get is, you are the soul, there's a plan, you are the soul, there's a subtle plan, and the gross plan will manifest when the foundation is right, and you are the foundation. You are the foundation. And that's how simple. Week in, week out, that's my only story. Week in, week out, that's my only story. Although I love to give you a Lamborghini, I won't see you again. I won't see you again. I can't. It's impossible for me to give you 1 billion rand and to ever see you again. I can't see it happening. I don't think you can see it happening. Imagine right now if everyone on the phone gets a deposit of 1 billion rand. First thing Vasan will do is buy the Kimberley mine. Are you in agreement? Why that magic which you expected? You see, I am the only disciple of Guruji in the world discussing what I discuss. Every other disciple of Guruji attracts people to Guruji's satsangs and tell them that they will get wealthy. They will get wealthy. In Durban, there are 2 satsangs of Guruji's, which one is in existence over 40 years. And this is the program. Come to satsangs, you will get rich. And Guruji never thought that. But they used Guruji's prosperous consciousness. They used Guruji's, even I went. That's what they told me. Reason why I went to Guruji's ashram is they told me after 8 weeks, whatever you want, you'll get. I got it in the first satsang. I wanted a brand new car, I went there in the first satsang. 3 days later, I was sitting in a top car. Okay? But I changed. I changed. When I saw the greatness of Guruji and the Lord, everything material became meaningless. And this is what I want you to see. Everything material must become meaningless. When I say it must become meaningless, it does not mean you must go and stay in one hut and have a donkey as a transport. Okay? Look at this ashram. We're in Reservoir Hills. In Reservoir Hills, this is the most talked about ashram, is it not? And there are ashrams in Reservoir Hills for over 30, 40 years. And if you go see in their bank account, you'll see 80 million, 90 million, 100 million. If you see in my bank account, minus 400 rand. But this ashram is on the world stage, is it not? Yes. So it does not mean to be prosperous is a sin. To be prosperous, you must be detached from that prosperity. You must be detached. You must breathe in the prosperity, you must breathe out the prosperity. It must not mean anything to you. If Avirs gets his Lamborghini, you'll see on his profile pic, making his wife wash the Lamborghini tires, and he's standing there with his hands on his hips. Alright? That means he is attached. You must have no attachment. Guruji stayed in a beautiful apartment. He did not stay in ashram. He had his rooms in ashram, but he had a beautiful apartment in Delhi. The apartment is still there. His sons are staying. He lived well. He was a householder guru. He lived well. Right? So, these notions we have that to become spiritual, you must lose. Materialism is false. It is not scientific. It is stupidity. It is absolute stupidity. It is a mental losing. It's your mental identification. You only detach mentally. Okay, I have a new car. My Mataji reminded me the other day, I should have gratitude. I'm driving a 2024 model car. Yes, I do have gratitude. So this entire course of mine, what I have to teach you, it can be done in many ways. Remember, the Vedas in the Upanishads is 100% scientific. That science is explained in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata in story form. In story form. So, I am here to teach you in scientific form. In scientific form, the same thing is taught in story form, but people get lost in the story. And I'll give you an example. It is known that when you go to a temple, you must take 3 kinds of fruit and a milk. Yes? So the story form, Vasan, and Vasan, this Kimberley story, might come and park one milk truck on top, thinking that the quantity of milk you give will be your receiving end. But this is what people do. They'll buy 3 kinds of fruit, 1 small milk, and they'll come and leave it here, hoping to become prosperous. Hoping to become prosperous. When is the time you must go to a temple? So, we have a calendar of functions, and in these function times you go visit the temples. What you're supposed to be doing in these days, from morning to afternoon? Fasting. You're supposed to be fasting, and you'll hear Sita saying, I'm fasting for Lord Ram. I'm fasting for Lord Krishna, isn't it? I'm fasting for Ekadasi, I won't eat grain. I'm fasting for Navratri. We say that, don't we? I'm just using Aishwarya, Sita. She got many names, alright? As an example. No, bull. You can't fast for them. Who the hell are you to go fast for such great entities? Who are you? Jessica, who the hell are you to fast for Mother Durga? Let's be honest. Are you understanding what I'm saying? You fasting because you eat all the time. Your stomach needs a break. And that is why you fast. You fast for a scientific reason, so that your body takes a break from the morning to the evening, When you come to the temple at 6 o'clock with some milk and fruit, because it helps your digestion. It helps your digestion. There was no food the whole day. Then you eat sun-ripe fruit, banana, apple, orange are sun-ripened fruit which assist you. And Vasan will run to the prayer shop on top of us, Wrigley Road, and buy a whole tray of sweetmeat for God. No, it's not for God. It's for your system. You grease your system. You eat that sweetmeat, it got ghee in it. It got ghee and you grease your pipelines. Person is getting happy. Any tip on eating? You grease your pipelines. Nadim, just now Vasan will ask you to learn how to make sweetmeat. You grease your pipelines, you drink the milk to soothe your and grease your pipelines. Do you understand? Where are you fasting for Mother Kali, Sita, and Mother Durga, and Lord Krishna, and Lord Ram? You fasting, they made that story. God is limitless. He knows man's mind. So in a story form, he sends you to the temple, but in scientific reasons, you're cleaning up your own machine. Your own machine. Do you understand? Are you understanding? God is in spirit form. Fruit is in material form. You cannot give materialism to spirit. God is full. God is full. If God goes hungry, then he's not God, Pastor. If God goes hungry, he is not God. If God goes thirsty, he is not God, because God has to be absolute in every sense. God has to be absolute in every sense. Please continue bringing fruits, those of you. Guru enjoys it now and again. Milk, Guru has for tea. Fruits, Guru has now and again. Sweetmeat, Guru have, and we give it back to you. So forget all that nonsense. This is Sanatan Dharma. Then when you go for Havan and you sit there and in a mango leaf, the Maharaj gives you water from the lota. Avir, how excited Avir gets. He's gone so close to God. In a mantra, he is drinking water. That water is to open a pipe. Behind your throat, there's a pipe. You know of that pipe? It gets stuck through fasting. When you're not drinking water, it gets stuck. So when you take that water and you say, Archamanyam, 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 that is just to open the pipe. But what Avir thinks that whole day, I went very, very close to the Supreme Lord. You didn't go any closer, Avir. It was just to open the pipe behind the throat. So this is Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma is a science for humanity, because do Muslims have the pipe behind the throat? If Muslims drink that water or any water, will it lubricate that pipe? Will Christians, the effect be the same? Would Jews, the effect be the same? Would coloureds, the effect be the same? Would blacks, will the effect be the same? Would Indians, will the effect be the same? Would Europeans, the effect? So across all races, across all religions, across humanity, Sanatan Dharma has the same scientific effect. And Sanatan Dharma is not a Hindu or a Indian terminology. It is spoken in a language called Sanskrit. Spoken in a language called Sanskrit, and Sanskrit belongs to the world because all other languages have taken its birth from Sanskrit, and you'll notice that now NASA, the biggest scientific community in the world, is introducing Sanskrit in its computers because it is the most perfect language. It is the most, because if God spoke Sanskrit, then it has to be perfect. And you'll also notice, if you do research, that European schools in Europe, are now singing in Sanskrit every morning because scientists have done experiments with this language, and it is found that if you chant in Sanskrit, your retention for memory escalates. And that is why in the Gurukuls, children from 10 years old know the entire Vedas because they chant it in Sanskrit. Now this is science. Now this got nothing to do with Indian or Hinduism. Science is across the board. Science is across the board, and science has determined that the Sanskrit language helps in retention of memory directly. So don't you think that it corroborates that the Creator God and the first language is Sanskrit? Does it not corroborate? Because if God created a language, it had to be perfect. If God created a language, it had to be perfect. And the frequency of the chanting of Sanskrit, frequency of chanting in Sanskrit manipulates the elements in the universe. What it does? Manipulates the elements in the universe. And who tried it? Guruji. He turned water into ghee by chanting in Sanskrit, and then he changed the ghee back to water in chanting in Sanskrit. And this is why I said the greatest scientist of the 21st century, the greatest scientist was Guruji. Is that not science? Turning one element into another element. Then he proved again. He chanted and changed a boy child in 7 months pregnancy, a girl child into a boy. It's there, it's in the medical record, it's there at Sri Siddhartha Ashram. A girl child into a boy child because he changed the elements. He changed the elements. You understand? And he's done thousands of those things along the way, too long to mention. But this is not a Hindi guru or a Hindu guru, got nothing to do with Hinduism. He used the equations that was given by God at the beginning of creation. He used the equations that was given by God at the beginning of creation. All of you understand why I am discrediting the Vedas and the scriptures as belonging to India or Hindus. This belongs to the world. Sanatan in English means eternal, and Dharma means constitution. Eternal constitution. Eternal constitution. Who must the eternal constitution belong to? The eternal souls. The eternal souls. So it belongs to the tree, it belongs to the snake, and this is why we are taught to love nature, plants, birds, reptiles, and humans equally. Aren't we taught that in Sanatana Dharma? Because the soul is identical to you in every one of these species. So let me quickly corroborate this discourse through God the Creator. And chapter 10, verse 32, Lord Sri Krishna says, of creatures I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of sciences, the Supreme Lord uses the word science. He says, of sciences, I am the science of the soul, both the individual soul and the super soul. And you can see this is why I, Acharya Sham Ramanuj, am teaching God's teachings as a science, because it has been declared by Him Himself in this verse that He is the science of the soul and He is the science of the super soul, which is Himself. I am of those who argue. I am fair reasoning. Of those who argue, I am fair reasoning. So I want to conclude this discourse by stating that this must be an ongoing revolution within yourself. You must be involved in a spiritual revolution within yourself. Remember, I reached this point as an atheist. I'm seated today here. I got my certificates and my merits in spirituality through being an atheist. When you are an atheist, then you are not emotional to your race, to your culture, and your religion. When you are an atheist, you are detached from everything. And you can start seeing things and questioning and asking in its perspective. And when you get an answer, you get fair reasoning through that answer because you are not emotional, either racially or religiously. Do you understand? It took me about 30 years to ask the questions, and how long you think it took for me to get the answers? That is 30 years of questioning. When I went to Sri Siddhartha Ashram, I had a moment, and in a millisecond, I knew everything. In a millisecond. How is it possible? We must be scientific in the answer how it must be possible. Okay? So if there is a cave in a mountain which has been in darkness for 1,000 years, and you strike your lighter, does it take 1,000 years for the light to penetrate the cave, or the instant you struck the light, the caves become illuminated? Instant you struck the light, cave is illuminated, yes? So it doesn't matter how long you have been ignorant. It doesn't matter for how many trillions years you have been ignorant. Remember, we already in 155 trillion years since this cycle of creation. If you are not self-realized yet, it means you have been ignorant just in this cycle for 155 trillion years. But it will not take another 155 trillion years for you to become enlightened. Today, one of you can walk out of here enlightened. Do you understand? Jai Shri Narayana.